my chosen path happened to be entertainment, but I really believe that it's my nature. Whatever I would have done, if I would have gone into engineering or if I would have gone into tech, because something I was really excited about, I love tech. I know I would have had the same nature, which is wanting to be excellent and striving for excellence every day and wanting to make sure that I, have something to say at the table, wanting to have a sense of purpose. I'm built like that. And I love to recognize even the smallest opportunities and make them an advantage for myself. From when I was very young, I chose to go to America when I was 12 years old. I told my parents I want to study with my cousins because I saw that as an opportunity for myself to experience a different world at 12.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Let's Give a Damn podcast. I'm your host, Nick Lapara, and this is the show where I talk with people who want to live a meaningful life, people who give a damn. Thank you so much for being here. I truly hope today's conversation gives you hope and pushes you to give more damns than ever before. Today, February 9, 2021, is a massive day for my guest. Her memoir, Unfinished, releases today. That's right, friends. My guest is Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Y'all, she is incredible, an absolute gem of a human. And chances are you already know a lot about Priyanka, but in case you don't, let me hit some of the highlights for you. Priyanka has been in the spotlight since she was 17 when she won Miss India and then went on to win Miss World. After that, she got into TV and film and has gone on to become one of the world's most recognizable names and entertainers. Speaking of, you should watch Priyanka's latest film, The White Tiger, on Netflix. It's been out for a couple of weeks. I watched it the other day. It's fantastic. It's kind of like if Slumdog Millionaire and Parasite had a baby, and that's a good thing. It's a wild story about inequality, poverty, the horribly unjust caste system in India, and so much more. You should definitely check it out. She has been named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time and one of the world's 100 most powerful women by Forbes. And these are just two of the countless awards, nominations, and accolades that she has received over the past 2 decades. She has spoken out extensively on issues like the environment, income inequality, women's rights, and more. And she has worked extensively with UNICEF for the past 15 years, serving in a variety of ways. In this conversation, we spend most of our time talking about her journey and her new memoir. She is the child of immigrants, so we spend some time digging in there. She lost her father a few years ago, so we spent some time talking about loss and grief and how to move on and how not to move on and how to remember those that we love and lose. There simply wasn't enough time to cover everything I wanted to in our conversation, but we did get a beautiful conversation, I think, that'll help you in a variety of ways. Before we begin, a quick reminder that you can, anytime and for any reason, email me at hello@letsgiveadamn.com. I'd love to hear from you. And now, without further ado, let's get right into my conversation with the amazing Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Let's go. Is that a real background behind you or is that like a screen?
Yes, it is.
That's stupid. It's so good. And mine is my shed.
Wait, let me tell you how this happened though. When I moved to London, this was in November because I was moving here for filming. My husband and his creative partner from his company came with me because so that we could quarantine together and he could be here for the holidays and he could be working while I was at work. And this guy, his name is Chase, he's insane. He was like, you know what, guys, we're going to be Zooming for a really long time. So I'm just going to set this stuff up for you because you're going to be doing a press tour. You have a book tour coming up.
Yep.
And he just ordered 2 lights on Amazon and a digital camera. And that's all it takes. And, it just and of course, find a decent background in your house. But it's really easy to be able to normalize and beautify the Zooming.
I know. And I have failed. I kept hoping that this would be over sooner than it has been.
I kind of accepted it
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
accepted it earlier.
Well, good for you. I still am just like, man, I hope we're out soon, and it's not going to happen. But I just like moved out to my shed and, ran high speed internet out here, and here we are. Who gives a fuck? We're just moving forward.
Yeah, we're just doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can. So, Priyanka, I am so thrilled to be speaking with you today. We are going to talk about your life, your career, the ways you give a damn, and your forthcoming memoir, which I'm holding in my hands. It's wonderful. I've been reading it over the past couple days.
Thank you for taking the time.
For this. Oh my God, are you kidding me? It's, I've seen your life and work from the sidelines, for years now. Obviously, you're a household name around the world, but this gave, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute. This gave me a peek into some things and that's obviously why you wrote the friggin' book. Like, it gave us a peek into things that other people wouldn't know about, right? If people Google about, grief that you've experienced with the loss of your dad, like, they can find certain things, but not in your own words, right? Not like this. And so this is a special memoir, which I'm so excited to dive into. I don't want to move beyond this moment without recognizing that we are recording this podcast conversation right when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are becoming the new president and vice president of the United States. Like,
I have to say that I actually might have snuck down and looked at it a little bit. Like, I saw President Biden speaking a little bit before I came upstairs to do it. And I also saw President Trump exiting today. So yes. I was like in between the tour. I would keep running down and watching CNN and coming back.
It's just such a wild, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We've got limited time, but it's such a wild day, right? I have so many mixed emotions. I think I'm correct. I'm not a historian, but I think this is the first non-peaceful transfer of power. This is the first time where the outgoing president, the outgoing disgraced, twice impeached president, is not doing what is expected of him. And we've seen that. I mean, I guess we could have expected that, but it was so weird.
That was the most consistent thing in the presidency, I think, was to expect the unexpected.
To expect the unexpected. And it was so wild over the last few days to see people pulling up clips of, transfers of power from, Bush to Obama and others. These were two people that were very opposed to each other in so many of their policies and so many of their ideas. And there was still this camaraderie there. They're one of a few dozen people that have ever held that position. Let's hand this off. Let's show people that we can do this. And there just wasn't that today. And so it's a weird, like, I'm sad. I really am genuinely sad. Like, I make snarky comments online seeing, Trump's helicopter leave the White House for the last time. But really, there's a sadness there, right? There's a sadness that it's come to this. And so I'm sad. I'm happy. Our first Indian, American female vice president. Like, this is history. So
that's what I was going to say to you, Nick. And I understand how you're feeling. And, I'm not American, but America is my second home. And I understand the sentiment, but I want to pivot what you're feeling. And I've said this to a few of my friends who are feeling the same way, by the way. I would love to pivot what you're feeling into the fact that America is inheriting a form of leadership that we haven't seen for a really long time. And that's a good thing. We're finally seeing the words that should be coming out of a president's mouth, And that's kind of wonderful to be able to see a first female in governance at this rank. I come from a country that has had several women as, prime ministers, presidents, and in governance. So I really want to say congratulations and welcome to the club. That's, I hope this is the beginning of many such, so much more representation.
I share your excitement. I have two daughters who are 6 and 7, and it is a joy to see them today. Right.
Yeah.
I wish they would have seen this 4 years ago. I mean, I was distraught on in January of 2017 when Trump was sworn in and not Hillary, because I really wanted all three of my children were born under the Obama administration. And then I wanted them to see their first female president. And so, yes, there is progress. America is very slow. The United States
better late than never.
Better late than never, right? And that's something that I'm glad you're pushing me on, because I am God, I can get so like distraught by how far behind we are. You just mentioned that, you know, where you're from, there's already been so many females in leadership. And
Multiple.
we can see around the world, some of the countries that are doing the best are
The
being
best have
run
female.
by women,
Yeah.
right? I don't know why we're so fucking like, it's so hard to understand that like having this equal kind of leadership and this equality and this equity among genders and among skin colors and all that, it's good for us. We need that, right?
It's a reflection of how the world should be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's skewed. It's not. It's not reality. We're living in some alternate dimension where we want to deny. A certain sect wants to deny the fact that diversity exists, or that women are demanding equality, or the fact that they deserve equality and opportunity that has been denied to them for such a long time. Where minorities are saying that, look around you. Does America look like one person? No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be the reflection in governance. It should be the reflection in entertainment. It should be the reflection in everything that we do. And baby steps, but this is a hopeful moment. And I know it's very tumultuous for the country, and I know a lot of my friends are feeling the same way. But I think it's important to hold on to hope and hold on to togetherness, and to know that this country was built on the back of people, of immigrants, technically, and no one except the natives people really are from here. So let's be true to the fact that we're seeing that reflected today, and America is going to be inherited by competence, and that's something really great to look forward to.
That is really, really great. Let's do a couple housekeeping things before we jump into your book, because I want to get to your book. I want to give the bulk of our time there. But you mentioned that before we got on the call, you mentioned that you're in London right now. You moved there in November for work. So how's it been pandemic-wise? So you guys, I presume, were in LA before that for the first chunk of the pandemic. How's the pandemic been for you and your husband and the people you're around? And what's keeping you excited and going? How are you taking care of yourself during this crazy year?
Well, I have to say that when the pandemic first happened, we were in India in March for the festival of Holi. And suddenly our friends were like, guys, you got to go because borders are going to shut. And, the gravity of it suddenly hit when we got onto that flight, landed in LA. And I remember the mayor making this speech saying that, we're shutting down Los Angeles. And it was the most bizarre moment. I remember I was with my cousin, her family, and two of our friends. So it was like 5, 6 of us that quarantined together for about 4 or 5 months. But I remember everyone just sitting down, and it was like quiet. A pin could have dropped and you would have heard it, because that's like some apocalyptic shit,
Yeah.
You can't make that up. And I remember the gravity of it. And in the beginning, I'll admit, the first 2, 3 weeks, I may have been like, yes, vacation. I leaned in really hard to, just chilling and eating whatever I wanted and drinking and like sleeping late and whatever,
Yeah.
and got old real quick. I felt gluttonous. I felt like I didn't have a sense of purpose. I started feeling a little bit crazy. But that's when I started writing my book, actually, properly. And this book was written because of the luxury of time. I don't remember the last time I've been in a place for more than a month, maybe maximum 2 if I was filming a movie. But 6 months to be able to be in one place, have a sense of routine, was a very big luxury for me. And that's where I had the time to dig so deep into my book. I think if I would written this book at any other time, I don't think it would have been as vulnerable or real. It surprised me, the places I've gone in the book. So that happened. Then I started filming in October. I finished filming 2 movies. People are watching so much entertainment that someone's got to make it.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm back at work. And the UK TV and film shooting is allowed, and under massive COVID rules. It's really scary to be the only one on set that kind of has to take the mask off while everyone's wearing them. And it's a weird time to be at work, but I have to say I'm grateful to the fact that I'm being able to do it. I think my work has always been my sense of purpose, and I can't imagine that being taken away from me. And I know that's happened to a lot of people in this time.
Yeah, so I in no way want to compare you and me, but in October we shot the pilot for what hopefully will be a docuseries. So we're taking Let's Give a Damn is not just a podcast. There's a nonprofit element. I'm writing a book as well, and we're doing a TV show, right? And so we're going to sell it this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But it was weird as well. Like, so in October, when things were really spiking for the second time here in Nashville, yeah, it was weird being on set. Again, probably not as big of a set as yours, but we had a full team, we had a full, group shooting this thing, and I was the only one without my mask. I was like, okay, we've done everything we can. Everybody's being as cautious as possible. Everybody's got masks on, but it was still just weird because we've lived in these masks, right, for the last, at this point, 9-10 months. So,
And it feels like that's your sense of safety and normalcy, and and just that moment when I take it off and I have to look around, is everyone like at a distance, everyone's wearing a mask, and where am I standing? Like, I'm so aware of human proximity
yeah.
that without a mask you feel vulnerable now.
So was
I
the
do.
yeah, was the goal always to have the book released now, or did you said you started writing the book a lot more? Did the process and the timeline speed up because you just got to writing during the pandemic, or
Well,
what's going on there?
it was supposed to release last year because my intention was, last year was 20 years of being in the entertainment business for me, and I thought 20 and 2020 was a great sort of time to write a memoir. But I just didn't get to it because I was so busy traveling. I didn't have time. And my poor publisher was so lovely, and like my editor kept pushing me, but I just couldn't put pen to paper till I had this time, and which is why it's delayed and it's come out the top of 21. But it did. The only reason I could write it properly really is because of being home.
Again, another sort of parallel. I'm writing this book. Well, I say I'm writing it.
Is it your first one?
First one, still in the very beginning stages.
Terrifying.
And it's terrifying on a few different levels, right? Because I obviously am not afraid, and neither are you, to put stuff out in the world. Like, I put these conversations out. We've done hundreds of them. Like, I've said a lot of stupid shit, and I'm fine with it, right? Like, it's out there. But books feel so final. Like, it's
and
on the
permanent.
It's on the printed paper. I mean, we have books. I've collected some really old books, right? I have books that are hundreds of years old, right? That could be your memoir. And so it feels so final. And so the last message I got from my book agent was, I'm not mad, I'm not upset. We're good, but I am waiting. Her words were, I am waiting with bated breath for you to get me this fucking book, right? So still
I got a few bated
it.
breath messages too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I'm not mad. We're good, but get me the book.
So true.
That's insane.
I even got my poor editor was so sweet. She even was like, just send me a few pages, whatever you have.
Right. Just send. Oh God, I've gotten the same exact thing. That's hilarious. Well, you're ahead of me. It's out. It's in front of me right now. And
I couldn't stop the presses, Nick. It ran away from me.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah. One last thing before we get into the book. So you're obviously, everybody knows you're married to Nick Jonas, a Jonas brother. So I share the same name, and I grew up with a bunch of brothers. I have 7 brothers and 4 sisters. There were 12 kids, and 4 of us, we formed a quartet.
Wow.
So I grew up in, I think Nick also grew up in like evangelical Christianity or something like that, right?
His father was a pastor.
Yeah, right. So, and so we had a quartet, like a gospel quartet.
Wow.
We called ourselves the Lapara Brothers. So I thought, it just hit me like a few minutes before we even started. I was like, wait, the Jonas Brothers, Lapara Brothers. That's a weird little connection. Obviously,
you guys are the same, basically.
The Jonas Brothers went way further than we did. I do not want anybody to find our music, that's for sure. But there's a little bit of a parallel.
Don't say
there.
that. Now everyone's gonna have to look for it. Guys, go look for the music.
I don't think they can
and send it to me.
I think we pulled it. I think we took it off the internet. Okay, let's get into this book, because again, super fascinating. And I want everybody to go get the book, obviously. We can't cover everything. It's a beautiful memoir. You touched on so many amazing parts of your life. We're going to focus on 2, actually 1. We're going to focus on your family, your parents, your upbringing, because I think that's super important to dive into. You said some really interesting things that I want to touch on. And then I also want to touch on the death of your father and grief, because I think a lot of people I want to touch on grief and see how you've gone through that, because whether it's death or not, like grief is a really interesting thing and people don't know how to do it well. So hopefully people can learn from you today on how to grieve well. I mean, people are grieving this past year, right? We've lost so much, even over the last few months. And so I am excited to dive into those. So let's begin with, you were born in India and you grew up there. Talk about a little bit about your childhood leading up to, 17 years old, 1999, your brother's, sort of suggestion that get into pageantry, changed everything for you. But before that, talk to me about your growing up in India. I've spent a bit of time in India, mostly in Hyderabad and the surrounding area. Love it so much. Can't wait to go back. Tell me about your upbringing a little bit, your parents, because you seem to have a really deep admiration for them for a lot of good reasons.
Absolutely. I think the reason why I've been able to have a sense of self since I was a very young girl was because of the confidence my parents instilled in me about who I was, even through my insecurities. I was never treated like a kid. I was always asked to have an opinion, even in a room that didn't agree with my opinion, even as a kid. I was never laughed at, never shamed. Those were very crucial part of my parents' parenting. And secondly, I also admired them as people. They were both very ambitious. They had like an amazingly equal partnership in their marriage. At the same time, there was romance and music and flirting. And like, it was just, I never saw as I was growing up, the complexities that marriage usually has. So my childhood was full of love, and my parents were both in the military, both are doctors. So we moved around every 2 years. I had a very nomadic upbringing within India until I moved to the States as a teenager, since when I was 12 years old. But India is not a place. India is not a destination. India is an experience. And you can spend your whole life trying to understand her, trying to get to know her. You can woo her, but she will never let you see all of her ever. You have to. I've spent so much time in India, traveling so many parts of India. My family loved road trips to the hills, to the north, to the south. We used to always travel. But I don't know her enough. You can spend a whole lifetime, because India is such a diverse country. Every 100 miles you go, it's a different language. Not even, and I don't mean a different dialect, different language, written and spoken, different alphabets, different outfits, different food. Even I haven't tried all kinds of Indian food. So it's like an onion, the country. You keep peeling and you want to know even more. And she's fascinating. I love everything about India is mystical, magical, modern, and tradition. And I think I'm an amalgamation of all of that, urban India, rural India, traditional India. And I think my childhood till I was a teenager is also a mix of East and the West, because I spent a large chunk of my life, which were my teenage years, which is, your teenage years are such an important part of who you become. That was time I spent in the US. And, so I kind of am a little bit of both.
So your parents, let's talk about that a little bit. Your parents in their 32-year marriage, and you even pointed out when describing it, that it was a very equal sort of marriage, and there was mutual respect and mutual honor. Who taught them that? Where did that come from? Because I know that, and I'm not trying to make a blanket statement over India, but there are. I know when I visited there, a lot of the people that I visited, there was this superiority between the men and the women. There wasn't that equality. Women did certain things and men did certain things, and that doesn't just exist in India. That exists here in the U.S. as well. Like
Everywhere.
That's everywhere, right? So who taught them that marriage is best when it's lived, with equality and with mutual respect and mutual honor, lifting each other up, rooting for each other to always win?
I think they were both very independent people growing up themselves. It was kind of a trait my mom and dad shared. My mother's mother, grandmother, was always about the fact that, my daughters are going to have their own vocation. My daughters are going to have their own voice. She pushed them to study. She pushed them to go to college. And be their own people. So a fierce sense of self was existed in both my mom and my dad, and I think my dad found that very fascinating in my mother. He came from a more conservative background, and I think together, when she brought in this fresh perspective of 70s kids, this was that time when men and women all around the world were kind of finding freedom and music and voice, and my mom loved Elvis, and she was a very independent girl, and my dad loved that about her. So I think she demanded respect, and she commanded respect, I'll say. I don't think she demanded respect. She commanded respect. And my dad was a secure enough man to be able to give it to her. And it kind of just organically their marriage became what it did, because I remember since I was very young, my dad, asking my mom's opinion in everything, specifically business, specifically like, finances, which is usually a man's technically, the way we
Yep.
have society is structured, a man deals with all of that. But in my family, it was always my mom. So I think they kind of created a respect for each other and organically found their own roles within their marriage, which was so wonderful to see.
And how has their marriage affected your marriage? I would expect in a deep way, because you talk incessantly about your admiration for them and all the amazing things your mom did, which, probably got passed on to you because you've gone on to do some pretty incredible things as well. But is there any specific ways in which their marriage has affected your, blossoming marriage here?
I think every marriage has got to be an individual journey, but I'm
Sure.
sure seeing, the solid marriage that my parents had and Nick's parents have, is so wonderful to be growing within, the blessings of seeing what that solid partnership can be, when even like my parents, till my dad died, they loved hanging out with each other, talking to each other, just like doing things together. I see Nick's parents that doing the same thing. And I'm someone who believes in a partnership. I always have believed in being able to find someone who's your own in your corner and is the family you choose. And I come from a lineage, and I've inherited a lineage of that. So it's sort of great to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1999, you are still thinking that you're going to get into, you're going to be an aeronautical engineer, right? That was the path that
That
you
was a
were
big
on.
dream.
Oh, that was the
I
big dream, right?
Yeah, that was
But
the
you,
big dream.
but in order to have that dream, you're thinking more academically, you're thinking more technically, and then this big shift happens in your life. How do, talk about that experience? Talk about, because you just said that it's in 2020 you celebrated 20 years in the entertainment industry. Starting with in the year 2000. Winning, what's the title, Miss India World? Did I get it in the right order? Right.
Mhm.
So big changes. You're thrown onto the global scene. Talk about that period of wanting to be, the big dream being an engineer, and then life saying, nah, it's not that. You're gonna be in entertainment. What was going on there, and how did your family react to that? Were they supportive? Talk about that 1999 to 2001 sort of period.
It was crazy because I'd
I'm
just come
sure.
back to India from America when I was 17. And sorry to say, but high school in America doesn't prepare you for education around the world. I went back.
It
I
doesn't.
went back to India, and I was suddenly failing when in high school in the US, I was in honor classes, and I couldn't keep up. Kids were doing like integration, and I'd never even heard of that in math. And I was just like, what is happening? So these big exams called the board exams were coming up, and it's like the SATs, they kind of contribute to your academic future. And this was 12th grade, and I was drowning. And so when this happened, and it happened because my brother wanted to get his room back, which my dad gave me when I came back because I was a teenage girl. He was like, of course, you need your own room. And my brother was kicked out of his room. He was 10 years old. I don't know how he came up with this, but he told my mom, I had just gotten these mall shots taken, those pictures like soft focus with your
Like
hand.
glamour shots. Yes.
Yeah, glamour shots. Yeah, like that. And that had just happened, not because I wanted to be a model, but I was actually taking pictures for a scholarship program. And the photographer was like, "Oh, you're really pretty. Can I take your pictures?" And I was a teenager and I was like, yeah,
Yeah, of
teenage
course.
vanity, I was like, yeah, sure. So those pictures, and my brother was like, there's this pageant, it's called Miss India. And we all used to watch Miss India. It was a big deal in India at the time. And he was like, let's just send Dee these pictures because, she's tall, she's pretty, whatever. My mom, I don't know what came over her. She sent it. I have no idea of any of this. I'm still like drowning, trying to give my exams at this point.
Sure.
And suddenly I get this call. I was at home that afternoon and I picked up the phone and this girl from the pageant says, wear your swimsuit bring your swimsuit, wear and a dress, do your, get dressed and arrive in Delhi and you're in the semifinals for Miss India. And I was like, huh? How'd that happen? I swear I thought, when I'd just come back from America to small town Bareilly, all the kids in my school used to stare at me because a high school kid in America, a girl, 16, I'm wearing makeup, I'm wearing heels, my hair is did, my makeup's did. And kids in India, like you wear a uniform to school. There's a protocol of how you're supposed to look. So kids used to look at me like I was some peacock or something. And, so I kind of had a sense of vanity. And when I got a call back, I swear I thought it was because kids in my school used to look at me like, with awe that somehow the Miss India pageant had magically heard about me from, and my ego was really burst open when my mom said what she did. And I swear to God, my intention was just to skip my exams and have a reason for doing them. That's why I went into the Miss India pageant. But I'm a competitive bitch, once I was there, I was like, okay, what can we learn? What can we quickly learn so that I swim? And I learned how to walk on heels. I learned how to, I watched all the other girls were professional models and stuff. So I learned, I saw what they did. And I won Miss India. I was sent for Miss World to represent India. I won that at 18. And then I was like, okay. And all of this has happened in less than a year, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not even the end of the year. And I'm suddenly, being interviewed by global press and having an opinion on, economic crises around the world. And I'm like just out of high school.
Right.
So it was a quick pivot. And, I'd learned really quickly. But I realized that I could. And, I saw that this is a door that sort of opened for an opportunity I'd never even thought I could have. And I recognized that very young.
Yeah, and you share this quote in the book. You said, if you're willing to be a student of life, the possibilities are endless. And it seems like, maybe before that you already knew that, but you were starting to experience that these, life is full of these opportunities. Yes, everybody's in a different place, but life is full of these opportunities where you can ignore it, or you can really take the bull by the horns and ride it to the end, all the way to the end. And it's clear in your life so far over the last 20 years that you've done that you have looked at every part of life as an opportunity and you have gone after it, right? You've said, what's in this? How big can this get? How far can I go here? Right.
Exactly. And my chosen path happened to be entertainment. But I really believe that it's my nature. Whatever I would have done, if I would have gone into engineering or if I would have gone into tech, because something I was really excited about, I love tech. I know I would have had the same nature, which is wanting to be excellent and striving for excellence every day and wanting to make sure that I, have something to say at the table, wanting to have a sense of purpose. I'm built like that. And I love to recognize even the smallest opportunities and, make them an advantage for myself. From when I was very young, I chose to go to America when I was 12 years old. I told my parents I want to study with my cousins because I saw that as an opportunity for myself to experience a different world at 12. And and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it was like going to a high school in America. God knows I didn't know what that meant. But I learned. If there was ever a choice, and I say this in the book, to sink or swim, I'm not the kind of person who'll sink.
Yeah, you're going to give it your damnedest to swim.
Yeah.
You went to the US, or I guess I'm here. You came to the US when you're 12, 13, did high school, did a few, you didn't go, I'm here. You did a few years here and then you went back and you talked about how, American high school did not prepare you super well, right? So I grew up in Guatemala. I was born in the US and then my dad is Guatemalan. We moved back there for 10 years. And, a lot of the kids that I was around, this is something that I wish your experience and I wish my experience on every American kid. Here's why. Because when you start branching out, it is impossible to believe in American exceptionalism when you get out into the world, because you start seeing that there is so much goodness and greatness out there. I mean, the kids I went to, the kids that were my friends on my block in Guatemala, a third world war-torn country. We moved there right as the Civil War was ending. There was violence everywhere. It was crazy. The kids I knew anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 languages, right? They had studied in Europe. They knew how to speak, at the very least, they all knew Spanish and they could speak English as well as I could or better, right? So at least they knew the 2 languages. You come to the States and kids here can barely speak the one language that they've been given, right? Like literally there's just terrible grammar everywhere all the time. And we've been so conditioned to believe that America is the best at everything that kids don't want to go branch out, right? They don't want to go study abroad. They don't want to believe that there are other amazing, great places out there. And so I wish, you mentioned in the book that this cultural mashup of your life, you said it invigorates me. It's important to me because I believe that we can all learn from one another, that we all need to learn from one another. And I wish that on American, not just children, Americans. I wish that on people living in this country, because I think it has really hurt us to not believe the best about the rest of the world, to believe that we are better than them, and to not go out and learn from them, right?
It's so funny you're saying that, Nick, but when I first came at 12 to the States, I moved to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I remember when I was in high school there, it was a great experience. I met some amazing kids. I discovered Hot Pockets. It was awesome. But I remember having this conversation with some girl that I was talking to. And I got a sense that, she was like, I don't even have a passport. I don't know anything about other countries. She asked me if I go to school on an elephant back in India. There was a level of ignorance which was crazy, but I took it upon myself to educate them. So in world history class, I remember I did a whole presentation about what India looked like and what countries outside the US looked like. And I remember this girl coming to me and being so fascinated by the fact that, technology at that time, which was late 99, technology was kind of just erupting around the world, specifically in India. Tech was a really big deal. And I, remember her looking at like really sort of high buildings and being like, I didn't know that, there were buildings like that, et cetera. And cars and this is ninth grade, okay? And she was also like so fascinated by the fact that, she didn't even know about different countries in the world. And I think it came from, and you hit the nail on the head, but I think it comes from a sense of, we're self-sufficient. We don't need to be curious, but that's the beauty of social media, I feel. Like, yes, there's the pros and the cons, and but with streaming and social and the internet, actually, the internet was the change that I see in America from the time that I was a kid to the time I've come back now, the curiosity of cross-pollination of cultures, of different people from different parts of the world actually fighting for, representation, is creating an education within America about different ethnicities. And I think that's why it's so important to normalize different people within entertainment. Like, that's a big quest of mine. To be able to, see various kinds of movies from different parts of the world or different kinds of people, just exactly like what America looks like represented on entertainment. Because when I was a kid, when I was 13, 14 in the US, I didn't see anyone on TV that looked like me, except maybe Apu from The Simpsons. And that was also a white guy. But like, I didn't see that, right? But I wonder if I did see that, if like Xena was Indian, say, for example, considering I saw so many Indian Americans in America, or, somebody like, would that have made me feel a little less solitary or a little less alone?
Yeah. So I was looking up something on my phone because my mind is burnt out right now. But you're right. Even like, there are so many in your industry, in the film industry, there are so many incredible films and incredible filmmakers and incredible stories being told, not just films, TV shows, docuseries, that Americans never watch. They never go look for, because again, we've created this environment where it's like, we can make our own films, we can make our own TV. We don't really need anybody else. When you start branching out though, and I love foreign films, foreign documentaries, because they really, like, again, you can't, once you explore and you realize that the world is great, when you realize that it's better to be a citizen of the world than it is to be a citizen of a particular country, and to have this sort of nationalistic view of your surroundings, the world gets bigger and better. The world gets more awesome. You get to start enjoying more, whether it's music or poetry or films. And
but I think even just America, Nick, is not one ethnicity. It never
it's true.
was.
Nope.
It's a country built by immigrants, except for Native people. Everyone has come from somewhere into this country. And that's the greatness of this country is, it's the land of dreams. And you come in here, you can be whoever you want. So when you talk about entertainment and that we should be, when we make our entertainment, we're good enough, who's the we?
100%.
Like, what is that? Who decides what that entertainment looks like? Because it doesn't look like what America is, really. It doesn't, it's not reflective of so many ethnicities that actually make up this country. And sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, and this is the hard work. I don't want to make this, we don't even have enough time to get into, political things right now. But if you look at what's happening in this country right now, you just talked about who's the we, right? That is an important question. And there are tens of millions of people that when they say we, they're talking about whiteness. They're talking about what white people make. And that's been very clear. The now former president, thank God, former President Trump, the permission that he gave to tens of millions of people to say that out loud. And it's been a very terrible 4 years. It's been really hard, but I'm also kind of glad, because now we know where we stand more than we did before. I think before Trump came into office, I wouldn't have been able to say this with as much boldness, that maybe half of America, half of the United States of America, when they say we, they mean white, they mean whiteness, they mean white culture, which isn't even a culture. They mean whiteness. And that's the hard work. I think that is it, because you're so right to push back and be like, you don't even have to leave the United States of America. Here, don't
even think about the world.
Hundreds of languages.
Let's not get crazy.
Right.
Let's not live on the edge, guys. Let's just look within the country.
And we have a ton of work, even just to sort of revitalize this idea that when we say we must mean all kinds of people, all kinds of ethnicities, all kinds of skin colors, all kinds of art, all kinds of business. We must mean that. We can't just mean like white culture.
I have to say, though, North America is one of the few countries that has the luxury of having so many different people that make up America. So many different countries and ethnicities that make up America. I'm not American, but that's the beauty that I love about this country. I love being able to meet people from anywhere in the world, experience any culture from the world right within this country, to
Yeah.
see opportunity can be created for any gender, any ethnicity within this country. And yes, that, I mean, that's the greatest thing about this country, and that's what we need to push and we need to champion.
Yeah, and I'm very hopeful, kind of looping back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about President Biden and Vice President Harris, is that we need to be hopeful that that can happen. We need to be hopeful that that this new administration and new ideas, fresh ideas, will push us closer to realizing just how rich and how amazing this country is for being a place that anyone can come to and make
Yeah, and
something of
let's leave
themselves.
behind the violence. Let's leave behind the division, the divisiveness. Let's the polarization. I think this should be a day, and it's ironic that we're talking at this time and we can't help but talk about it, but this should be, a beacon of, I think, love. I'm a humanitarian. I'm not political. I consider myself apolitical, but I truly believe that, the only thing that can bring people together is togetherness. And instead of being afraid and being polarized, I think it's really important to lean into each other and to lean into community. And I hope that this is a great way of, the country going in that direction.
Yeah, here at Let's Give a Damn, we talk about fewer walls, longer bridges, bigger tables. I lean toward extremism, and I want to make these like brash, overarching statements. But at the end of the day, the best way to be together is togetherness. The best way is to like seek to, okay, I might not agree with you on 90% of who you are and what you
Totally.
do, but where can we meet? Where can
Agree to disagree is great. It's fine. That's the beauty of human beings. We're not twins. We're not all born with the same opinions and minds. We're always going to have difference of opinion, but that shouldn't be so divisive that it ends up becoming violent and creates hate. And I'm so terrified of the world that the children of the future are going to inherit. And that should be our problem. Every generation's responsibility is to take the world that we were given and leave it a little bit better. But are we really doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. At the beginning of every podcast episode, and I'll say it with you as well, when we put this out, as I say, all of my guests want to leave the planet better than they found it. Like, that's the one thing that brings us all together. We're all attacking it from different angles, but that has to be the goal. My parents always used to say that when I was growing up. We'd go over a friend's house to visit, or even in our own home. It was like, leave this room better than you found it. Like, in other words, if you came into this room to play with your friends and there was some stuff already here, make sure all that's gone when you're finished. Like, leave
Just
it
do
better than when
something
you
to
found
contribute. It gives such a sense of purpose. And if you can contribute to humanity, if you can contribute to the world, and you have the luxury and the privilege of being able to do that, what a gift.
What a gift indeed. Okay, we've got a couple minutes left, and I want to hit on two more things. One is grief, and the other is, you mentioned that you're first and foremost a humanitarian, and you've done incredible work. So I want to sort of highlight again. I want people to go read the book so they can read about it more. But so in 2013, after years of battling, your dad passed away 2 months before his 63rd birthday. How do I want to approach this here in just a couple minutes? You started that chapter, I think it's chapter 7 or 8, with this quote: be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign language. How did you deal with grief then? How was that experience for you? How have you grown in learning how to deal with grief? Because obviously it doesn't go away. One of my favorite books about grief in the world is A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. Have you ever read that book? I highly recommend it, just for anybody, whether you're dealing with grief or not. He wrote it after his wife, Joy Davidman, died. And he writes in there that the death of a beloved is an amputation. There's so many amazing ideas regarding grief in that short book. It's one of his shortest books, one of his most impactful, though. But yeah, losing a loved one is like an amputation. And in amputations, you can put something in its place. You can put a prosthetic, limb in that place, but that amputation is forever. It doesn't change, especially when it's a loved one as close as a mother or father. So how did you deal with that grief? And how have you grown in learning how to deal with grief?
My dad to me was, more than just a father. I kind of really looked up to him. I wanted to be him when I grew up. I wanted to,
Mm.
take over a room the way he did. I loved the fact that he would walk into a room and be the life of a party. And, he never seemed to have needed to, ask for attention. He always got it. He was just magnetic like that. And I really, I was his fan,
Hmm.
and he was my biggest champion. In turn, he became mine. Every single thing that I did, my dad was the loudest, cheerleader in the room, much to my embarrassment sometimes. But till I was much older, so losing him was like losing, an unconditional someone with unconditional belief in your abilities. I felt like my dad always believed that anything I touch, I will be excellent at. He just had so much faith. And I believed in me because of him believing in me. And I felt like I lost that. And I was also at a time where there was a lot of, loss in my life, a relationship. I was leaving my country. I just moved to America. I was starting a new show. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. And I was just alone on set for almost 15, 16-hour days every day for 11 months. So it was a really solitary, dark time, and it all sort of compounded together for me. And I think what I found really helpful was I allowed myself to mourn
Mm.
all of it. I didn't fight it. I, canceled dinners with friends. I would come back home and just watch TV on the couch. I ordered, oily Chinese food if I wanted to eat it, or pizza. And, I kind of went back to work and I was a zombie, but I delivered. I kind of just leaned into the seduction of sorrow. It's very seductive. It's just like there's a comfort in wearing your sweats and not wanting to talk to anyone and incubating. And I did that for a good like 2 years, I think. And and then I was just bored and sad by being sad. I've always loved life. I believe it's a gift. And I saw that, the career that I had built with so much blood, sweat, and tears, I would lose that if I lost my sense of focus. And I was losing my sense of focus. I wouldn't go to work prepared. I would go to work late. I would not sleep enough. I was, not eating right. And I was just feeling gluttonous. And I chose myself. I said, I know I'm feeling sad, but I choose to take one step every day towards light, which started with maybe, not living in the same routine that I did, which was coming back from work, sinking into my couch, ordering some food and like a blanket. And I stopped doing that stuff. I started
Mm.
meeting people. I took my dog out for a walk, like tangible changes, little tangible changes really helped me come out of the physicality of my sorrow. And emotionally, I had to come terms with the fact that it wasn't going to go away. When people say get over it, you'll get over it, you don't get over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a friend. It's a companion. It's someone that hangs out the back of your head. Some days it'll come out for a long time. Some days it'll not come out. And the degree in which it comes in and out depends on the amount of peace you make with it. So I made peace with the fact that everyone is born and everyone has to die. And my dad's life was shorter than it should have been. I think it was cut short long before it should have been. But the only thing to do under that circumstance is to celebrate the life lived instead of mourning the life lost. And coming to terms with that, which took me a long time to do. It took about 4 years for me to get there. But once I got there, I remember my dad with so much joy. I remember his stupid jokes and, repeat them at parties. And, I'll make his favorite drink or order his favorite wine. And do the things that he sort of inspired me to do. And his zest for adventure, his zest for life, I'd forgotten it. And he would have been so sad to see me like that, because he had a very gentle heart and was a very sensitive man. And I just kind of went back to remembering him for all the joy and the light instead of the sadness, and that really helped me move on.
There's so much wisdom in there. And I love you pointing out, and this goes back to earlier where you said that you're committed to being a student of life, is that suffering, really realizing that life has a beginning and an end, and that's all of us. Every single one of us will experience the end of life, some unfortunately sooner than others. But realizing that gives you a new appreciation for life, first of all,
Totally.
and you get to sort of see pain and suffering as a companion, a teacher, instead of, because I think the worst thing that we can do when we're experiencing grief and loss is try to shun those feelings perpetually. Again, we might have to really like get
I
comfortable
did
at
for
first.
2 years and then got to a
100%.
place where I dealt with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you deal with it, and it's like you said, it's always going to be there. So why not
Yeah.
befriend it, quote unquote, befriend it, and say, okay, how can I learn from this to become a stronger person in the future, right? From this suffering. I mean, the Stoics got so much right, I think. And one thing was their view of like suffering. They looked at suffering straight in the eyes and did not ignore it, did not try to hide themselves from it, but say, what can I learn from this? How can this be used for my benefit? And that helps us actually move forward. That helps us get to the place where we can order our loved ones, favorite wine or drink, and start to tell those jokes and kind of continue. That's how they continue to live, right? They're
Continue
gone.
their legacy.
They're gone far too soon, but we can continue the legacy instead of, again, kind of shutting it out. So much wisdom in that chapter on grief. Let's end with this. I won't dive into all the amazing things you've done, humanitarian speaking, but you've worked with UNICEF for years. You have the Priyanka Chopra Foundation for Health and Education. You've helped so many young girls and others through your work. Why do you do that, right? So there are two. You obviously have a lot of, because of the incredible work you've done. You've built up, resources, and you have freedoms that other people don't have. And you have certain kinds of people at this point in life. Some that say, I have a lot, therefore I need to do something with it, right? And then you have others that don't do as much. They kind of like use it on just themselves, and maybe to ease their conscience, they do things. But that doesn't seem like, again, looking at your breadth of work, this is not an easing of your conscience because of all the stuff that life has given you through your hard work. It seems like you genuinely care about these things. So why? Why is describing yourself as apolitical but very much humanitarian a thing for you? Why is your humanitarian work important?
Well, I was raised in again, my parents were like philanthropists from the beginning. They used to always have 2 beds in the hospital that were always free of charge. Anyone could come and they would get free treatment. They did medical camps where they would go give free treatments into villages where people couldn't afford it. And we weren't patted on the back when we did something to help
Right.
someone. It was just expected of us. So I was raised in an environment where I remember the story, and it's a very small example of what my parents were like. Mom put a glass of milk in front of me, and I was being a brat, and I was like, I don't want to have it. And I kind of like threw the milk on the ground. And she looked at me and she said something to me that I've never forgotten, which is, a baby calf gave this up for you. And just the visual of, this belonged to that baby, but now it's yours and you're wasting it. Being wasteful was even considered not a good thing. So I think being acutely aware of your privilege. I came from a country where, and even in the world, if you have a roof over your head and the ability to, give your children meals every day, or your family, and provide for your family, that's privilege. And no matter how badly off you are in life, somebody is worse off than you. And it is the responsibility of the privileged to care about the rest of the world, which as a majority lives under very hard circumstances. And that was something inculcated in me from when I was a child, when I was 5 years old. It was always something that, compassion and empathy towards between the haves and the have-nots is very important, and I was very aware of. I come from a very unassuming background, a middle-class family. Everything that I have built has been on my own steam and my own back. My career is self-made, and everything that comes along with it is self-made. But from whenever I've had, which has been always, because my parents always provided for me, I've always believed that the gift of time the gift of compassion, gift of money if you can, the gift of, you don't have to empty your wallet to be a philanthropist or a humanitarian. You can
Yep.
look around you and offer someone a smile, go
Yes.
visit an old person, go, give your toys that you don't use or your clothes, donate that. Don't waste food, don't waste water. Don't, every human life can contribute into making the world better if only we're aware and we're conscientious about it. And I was made aware of that because of my upbringing. And then going into actually the pageant world at a very early stage, I took that very seriously when I realized that, oh, this is what happens when you have a platform. You can use it and talk about things that people don't think about. And that's what I had to do when I was Miss World. And I continued to do it as my career as a public person sort of evolved, and that's a really large part of me. But at the same time, I do believe that social responsibility is very individual. You can't thrust that upon people.
Nope.
But I think it is extremely important for parents to teach their children that they have a social responsibility. And I think it's very important for us to, people who are woke or are aware of the fact that we can contribute to any aspect of making the world a little bit better, should be aware of doing that. And that's why I do it. I, make sure I take time out of my schedule every year to have boots on the ground and actually make a difference. It's a very big part of who I am.
Well said, and a wonderful way to wrap up our conversation. I wish I had hours more with you. I think the world. I think the world of you. Great memoir. I hope everyone listening, and I'll encourage them. Link in the show notes and all that. Everybody go buy this memoir, Unfinished. It's fantastic, and I wish you well during this book tour, this virtual book tour, and as the book comes out. So we're recording it on January 20, but it releases on the day that your book comes out. So hope everyone goes and gets it. Thank you so much.
Releases February 9th.
Yep, February 9th.
Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever. Yes, how terrifying.
I know, it's coming out into the world. Super exciting. So
don't worry, you're going to experience it soon.
I know. Well, it won't be, come on. I'm little old me here in Nashville, Tennessee. It won't be as terrifying, but I'm excited for it to come out whenever it comes out.
It's going to be great. Make sure you send me one, right? I want an autographed copy.
I will send you one. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Dear friends, thank you so much for joining Priyanka and me today. Priyanka is amazing, and I hope you'll dig into her life and work after listening to our conversation. And please go buy her memoir, Unfinished. Don't buy it from Amazon. Buy it through your local bookstore. And please visit letsgiveadamn.com to learn more about what we're up to at Let's Give a Damn. Friends, I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for showing up. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. The music is by our friend Propaganda. You can reach out anytime and for any reason at hello@letsgiveadamn.com. I love you all. Be safe. Keep giving a damn. Bye for now.